All right, we're live. So, welcome to the live show of Web3 Tools organized by Foundership. To those who do not know about Foundership, Foundership is a Web3 accelerator providing incubation to Web3 startups through its flagship acceleration program called 0x Camp. To know more, kindly visit our website at foundershiphu.com. In the ever evolving landscape of digital innovation, the integration of Aadhaar verification into Web3 businesses marks a significant leap forward. Aadhaar, India's pioneering biometric identity system, has long been a cornerstone of identity verification in this country. Now, in the Web3 era, its application extends beyond borders and traditional boundaries. Today, Vishwas, co-founder at Hypermind, will delve into the groundbreaking concept of Aadhaar verification in Web3 businesses, unveiling how it enhances security, trust, accessibility in a decentralized digital landscape while fostering new paradigms of global identity verification. The live chat has been enabled for questions. Do feel free to clarify our doubts, which would be taken towards the end of the session. Over to you, Vishwas.
Uh, Thank you, Pardip. Let me share my screen first. Okay. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible, Vishwas.
All right. Hey, thank you, Pardip, for giving this opportunity to talk about our product. Hi, everyone. My name is Vishwas Anand, and I am the co-founder and CTO at Hypermind. Today, I'm going to talk about one of our product called Kavach, uh, which is uh, which is a privacy-first Aadhaar verification for businesses. So let's jump into the problem first, right? So as you some of you might know that there is a newly enforced data protection law which is called DPDP is in place in India, and which primarily has two key takeaways. A, the businesses need to provide details about what they are doing with the citizen data, where are they collecting it, how are they processing, and so on. And B, in case of any sort of breaches, there is a hefty fine up to 250 crores. If you look at current KYC solutions, they are mostly tailored for regulated businesses like banking, insurance, telecommunications, etc. Unregulated businesses like Web3, age verification in liquor distribution, uh, e-commerce, these kind of sectors have been overlooked by these KYC solutions. And which is why there is a high cost of integration for KYC for these unregulated businesses, right? And what they end up doing is they end up doing an ad hoc way of integrating KYC. For example, they might be taking picture of front and back of the uh, Aadhaar card, or they might be asking for a photocopy of your identity documents and so on and so forth. So far, it has been working for Web3 unregulated businesses. But the problem comes now, which is the DPDP regulation now in place, right? So that brings a complexity that you have to adhere with this law. And if in case of any sort of hack or breaches, there is a fine that will be imposed on you. So now even the unregulated businesses have to adhere to this law, and which is why it becomes very complex for them to quickly adhere to this law as well as keep running their businesses. So, and that is why, and one more thing about the Web3 landscape, right? Where these KYC solutions do not work because they do not neither adhere to any of the DeFi principles or Web3, principles like user consent and control, anonymity, privacy, decentralization. None of these things actually works with the current KYC solutions because you cannot uh, give private data in a smart contract, right? The data cannot be given to a smart contract, otherwise it's going to be public, right? And that is why we built Kavach. Kavach is an privacy first offline Aadhaar verification that helps you, of course, identify your user using Aadhaar, ID, and protect your businesses from any potential data breaches and hack. And we also aims to give back the users data back to them. And how do we do that? So we never stored the PIA data in the first place. Instead, what we do is we generate zero knowledge proofs of this data, right? and store these proofs in something called user data vault, which is basically a storage controlled by the user, right? We'll talk about this zero knowledge proofs and user data vaults in a bit. It is a fast and low code deployment, meaning that you will get a simple plugins or APIs to integrate with your solutions. We also provide liveliness check using AI and strong cryptography. And last but not least, we provide reusable KYC, meaning that every proof that is being generated is attested on the blockchain. So that you should be able, as a user, you should be able to reuse this KYC without having to reuse these proofs without having to go through the entire KYC process of, you know, giving your data, taking pictures, entering phone numbers, and so on and so forth. The user experience is pretty simple, as like any normal KYC flow will be there, because you don't want to change the UX of it. So it starts with scanning the QR code present on your Aadhaar card, then taking a live picture or a video of yourself, and then providing the phone number which is linked with your Aadhaar card, right? And in the end, after the verification is done, what we return is a zero knowledge proof of these data, depending on what data is requested. So there are two kinds of proofs that we return to the business. A, selective disclosure SD proofs, which says that, hey, you should be able to request a particular data, piece of data out of your credentials. For example, your Aadhaar card might have 10 data, right? Name, date of birth, gender, citizenship, uh, date of issuance, and so on and so forth. Whereas you only need one piece of data. Normally, in case of unregulated businesses, most of the time they need single one piece of data or some information out of the credential. For example, let's say you are going to drink in a bar, right? And you just have to prove that you are 18 plus. And in order to do that, you have to share your entire Aadhaar card with the bartender, or at the bar counter, because there is no way for you to share a piece of data with you. This is where this SD proof comes into picture, where you can share a piece of data out of your credential. So here you look at this credential where I am only sharing my date of birth and my name with the requester or service. Similarly, the second proof that we also give is a zero knowledge proof. Here, zero knowledge proof is a proof. What is zero knowledge proof? Is basically the proof of some information about you without sharing that information itself. For example, if I want to prove that I'm 18 plus, I should be able to prove that without having me to share my date of birth, right? If I want to prove that I'm a citizen of India, without having me to share my actual address, I should be able to prove that. Right now I'm in Karnataka, and if I have to take electricity bill, subsidy to the government, I need not to share my actual address, where exactly do I live in Karnataka. I should be able to share the proof that I belong to I am a citizen of Karnataka, and please provide me this subsidy. So these are zero knowledge examples of zero knowledge proofs. So you can see in this particular proof, there is no personal data exist. So here I am only providing some numbers in a form of, these are basically mathematical proofs. So basically the variables related to those maths are only given, which tells nothing about that information. But what it does tell is, it tells that this is the age proof of 18, right? So what can you do with this proof? You can actually feed this proof to a smart contract. You know, the problem which I was talking about earlier with the current KYC solutions, you cannot use current KYC solutions with the smart contract, right? And that's a good example, right? So you should be able to use this proof, because here you're still proving that you are 18 plus, or you're still proving the fact without having to reveal your actual data, right? So your data does not go on the public ledger. Your just information about that data goes on the ledger which is required. So these are the two proofs that we share with the companies. And rest of the data, Aadhaar data, because we do take Aadhaar data, but all of these data are discarded. So now, apart from giving this proof to the businesses, whichever proof is required by the businesses, we also attach this proof on the blockchain, and at the same time we store this proof in vault. So vault is basically an encrypted storage controlled by the users keys, right? And Why do we do that is because next time whenever you want to reuse these proofs somewhere, let's say in some smart contract or in some other businesses, you do not have to go through the entire coverage or any sort of KYC verification where you have to enter again number, go through all the hassle every time you go to create an account with a different bank or different service. They'll ask you to do the same process again and again, and then you keep sharing your data, right? That will not happen here. So one time you done your KYC and you have gotten your proof, it is stored in your data vault. Then you should be able to reuse these proofs into some other businesses or services, even a smart contract in case of zero knowledge proof. Yeah. So and when you look at the view of this vault, right? So what you can see is that you have a proof from various different issuers. You have a proof from, let's say, healthcare center. You have a proof of address from some place. You have a proof of citizenship from some other provider, and you can look at all your proofs kept at one place. And any other businesses should be able to request this proof, right, from your vault or from your own controlled storage, and you should be able to share this proof with someone else without you have to go to an again, like I said, right, again KYC process again and again. These proofs will be sufficient enough to tell those information. And one interesting thing about these proofs being attested on the blockchain is that as an issuer you should be able, as a business or the issuer, whoever is issuing this proof, you should be able to revoke it. Meaning that, imagine that you have issued a proof to a user, right, and somehow now this user is doing some wrong activity or something, he still have the proof, he can make use of it, right? Even though his his main Aadhaar card or the main identification document which he would have used to generate the proof have gotten revoked. So in order to tackle these kind of scenarios, issuer has ability to revoke these kind of credentials or these kind of proofs. So which is why the proofs are being attested on the blockchain and then given to the user, so that issuer at any point of time, so there is a trust on the issuer, there is always a trust on the issuer in the system. So issuer has always that ability to revoke that proof, so that the user will not be able to use this proof any further at any different place. So that is the revocability. In the end, we also provide coverage authentication score. So basically, it's a result, right, saying that, hey, what all things this user have gone through during the KYC process and what is the result. So basically, every step that user goes through is associated with some sort of score. It's our internal score that we provide. And so, for example, in this case, the user has gone through secure QR code verification, user has gone through image verification and phone number verification. And you will notice that in this particular example, this user's image verification did not pass, but still his overall, KYC flow or KYC verification was done. Reason being that there is another value which a business can set, which is called threshold value. So every time when you set up a coverage in your dashboard, you should be able to set this threshold. And because the user have passed this threshold, so which is why the total score was 15 and the threshold was only 12, still his overall score was overall verification went through. Now why this has been done? Because remember, we are talking about unregulated businesses where there is no strict rule like that, like you have to do everything at every step. There might be cases where you as a business, you just want to verify the QR code and just the phone number and not the image, for example. There might be cases you just want to verify the QR code. So depending on the use case, which is why I in the beginning itself I mentioned that this particular solution is tailored for the regulated unregulated businesses where there is not enough much regulations, right? So but still you have to adhere with the data protection law, right? So which is why all those privacy preserving technology comes into picture. So this CAS coverage authentication score we return to the business. They can either use it in a form of a test, SBT, or they can just keep it in their database. Again, this score is also in a form of verifiable credential, meaning that whatever we are providing, we are making sure that yes, we have actually verified these things, so that tomorrow coverage server also cannot deny the fact that they have not verified these data. So now, if you are satisfied with the solution, so how do you want to integrate? How can a developer integrate Kavach, right? So there are two ways to integrate Kavach. A, you can use our plugin. So the when you embed the plugin in your UI, it will basically generate a button, right? When a user click on the button, this comes up, and user goes through all this process. Kavach server goes through the verification of digital signature of the QR code, or verification of the image or phone number, testing on the blockchain, and so on and so forth, and then returning the result to your backend. So this is pretty simple. And the second thing that you may also do is you can use our APIs to integrate Kavach, so that you don't have to see our UI. Like when you click on the button in the plugins, this UI comes up, right? So this will have our branding and so on. So if you want to skip that, you should be able to use just this API to verify the user. You can just pass your QR code here, scan the QR code, and pass it here, the QR string, and then where you can pass the image or the video of the current image or video of the user, and we will verify and give it back to you. You also have this proof API, which you can request different sort of proofs. Like I said, you can request SD proofs or knowledge proofs, depending on your use case. Yes, so that is it. I'm not allowed to show this demo actually, because the product is not yet launched. So I will rather take questions now, if you have any. Over to you, Pradeep.
Yeah, so it was a great presentation, Vishwas. I don't think there are any questions from the community as of now, but definitely it's a quite a fascinating presentation which you've portrayed to the community, and the integration of Aadhaar verification into Web3 businesses represents a pivotal moment in the evolution of digital identity and trust. And since there are no questions from the community itself, I had a few questions myself, which I
Mhm.
wanted to understand based on the kind of product which you're developing on. So, firstly, why are trust and security paramount in Web3 businesses, and how does Aadhaar verification address these needs?
Yeah, sure. So you might be seeing that there are a lot of see. We all understand that anonymity is the first thing that is required in the Web3, right? We start our flow with thinking that hey, everything is going to be anonymous in Web3. But having said that, it also brings a lot of bad activities on the Web3. Now we have seen a lot of breaches, sorry, a lot of hacks that is being happened, although it is not related with the blockchain. Like blockchain are not being hacked, but the keys. But then at some point of time, you will notice that the Web3 is going towards regulations. Right now, if you look at the discussions around which is happening around G20 also, they will you will notice that they have now started talking about all the countries coming together and forming a crypto regulations. So somewhere, somehow, these regulations are going to come in some form. But we want to make sure that these regulations should not come in that a way where all the users identities are revealed publicly, right? So you want to be very sure about that, you so that the principles on which Web3 is built, right, they are kept intact, right? Which is why these kind of solutions, which are helping regulatory bodies, as well as sticking to the Web3 principles, are required in future. That's my view on it.
Got it. That was great. And now we've started getting a few questions from the community as well. So, first question by Sonali is, how much does it cost to integrate? I think
Yeah, so
we're talking about the Aadhaar business itself.
yeah,
Aadhaar
so
verification, sorry.
cost discussion we can take it offline anyway, because we are still figuring out like overall cost. But what I can be sure about it is that it's going to be way more cheaper than any traditional KYC system, because the first thing that we start trying to when we were researching is that it's very expensive for any unregulated businesses to integrate uh, you know traditional KYC system. So we are definitely looking to reduce that cost, and this will reduce. You remember the reusable KYC thing, where we
Yeah,
will not incur any kind of cost when users start using reusing their KYC, right? So we will not charge our customer eventually.
got it. Perfect. And the next question by Martin is he asks, can it be integrated on a DApp to distinguish between a not an unreal and a real user? Or essentially, I think a bot, which is what he wanted to say.
That is anyway, yeah, that can be definitely. So you remember those scores, right, which we are providing. You can use those score and put it in as SBT, in a form of SBT, and use it for a bot protection, and also for civil resistance.
Got it. A few questions from my side as well again. So,
Mhm.
can the integration of Aadhaar verification extend its benefits beyond India's borders? And what are the implications for global identity verification as well?
Right, good question actually. Um, so so Aadhaar is just one of the identity provider on the coverage, right? So right now we have integrated Aadhaar because we are Indians, and I was very well we do understand Aadhaar, how Aadhaar works and all. And we saw that, okay, Aadhaar is might be our easiest go to market for Indian market. But we are also talking with some of the KYC provider who works with a different basically who works globally. But what I'm trying to say is that you can connect any sort of these kind of KYC system with the infrastructure, and it will work as it is. The way where it's working with the Aadhaar ID provider, similarly, it will work with any kind of government system. And we can simply integrate with, instead of going towards the government and integrating with the coverage, what we can do is we can simply partnership with the KYC existing KYC provider in those countries, and help them understand the use of this technology, right? Like reusable KYC and providing attestation of and all these things, and and then you can integrate, and then every country will have that this sort of infrastructure. If that
Understood.
answer your
Fair
question.
enough. Yeah, that answered the question. And would it be possible for you to bring light on the importance of user consent and control in Aadhaar verification? And
Yeah,
how could users maintain authority over their identity data?
right. Very, very, very good question actually. Uh, if you would have asked me this question last year, my answer would have been completely different, and I would be very skeptical to even answer this question in the context of Indian users. But
Got
now,
it.
because you're asking it today, when this data protection bill is passed, where they clearly mentioned that you have to build systems in a such a way that has to be user centric. They have mentioned it in the bill. So, which means that Indian government have started thinking about protecting, how can you protect users' data? How can you reduce data leakages? Like the example which I was giving, right? Like I just need to drink in my local bar, and I end up sharing all my Aadhaar ID, right? All the
Mhm.
data of my Aadhaar ID, and there is no way. And the reason, and it's not the fault of the bartender also, because there is no way I can share just my date of birth, right? And what happens from there is, he will, in the end of the day, right, he will have so much of data which he does not even need. So
Yeah.
eventually he will either sell it or he will throw it just as it is, and from there, all the data leakages have start happening. So which is why this bill actually tells you this, clearly tells two things. Like, first, you have to reduce the amount of data that you are sharing. So, but then the bill doesn't talk about the technology, but talks about the principles, right? Which
Mhm.
already three guys are in line with the principle, which is why it is very easier for us to understand this principle, because we understand, because the Web3 principle is quite aligned with the DPDP user, at least the user part of the thing. So how do you control the data? So we built our solution for, like, we built the solution at the design level itself. We thought about this because we know that DPDP is going to be enforced. If not, if people do not implement on their own, so it will be enforced, and hence you have like so much of fines and all, right? So So which is why these proofs which I was speaking talking about are stored in the user's vault, right? And right now, so right now we don't have a mobile app to give to the user, and user will not even install it. But what we are doing is we are doing, I believe, in a bit smarter way, is that we are storing these proofs in a vault which is controlled by something called decentralized identifier, DIDs, right? And tomorrow, whenever a user is aware, right, and we provide them an app, they should be able to generate a private key which they can attach with these DIDs. So right now, Kavach server is definitely, yes, storing, controlling all the proofs of the user. But tomorrow, whenever the user is ready and whenever the user is ready to understand the use of private keys and all, Web3 user are anyway ready. So you should be today itself, you should be able to connect your MetaMask wallet and control our vaults. So for Web3 users, there's no problem. For the Web2 users, we are talking that for them, we are managing the keys. But tomorrow, whenever they are ready, we can simply replace the keys, the public key, linked with their DID with the new public key which they will generate in their wallet. So the
Hmm.
moment you do that, all this data which is currently being controlled by Kavach server will be given back to the user, and then Kavach cannot have any access to this data. So we have
Got
thought the Web3 perspective as well as Web2 perspective.
it. Interesting. Perfect. Great. So that about wraps up the questions from my side. I don't believe we have any other questions from the community. I've although shared your LinkedIn and Hypermind Tech LinkedIn IDs, LinkedIn profiles over chat as well. In case anybody has questions, feel free to connect with Vishwas, ask your doubts, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. With that, I think it wraps up this session as well. It was a great session, which was quite an interesting and insightful presentation, which you provided us on the different and unique product which you are building upon. And we look forward to having you display different kind of products over our LSWT sessions as well. And we wish you the very best to on this product, and hope the our community can engage with this kind of product which you're developing. And yeah, look forward.
Thank you, Vardit and Foundership. Very much thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about this product. So thank you very much.
We're glad to have you, Vishwas.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you everyone for joining. Hope you liked the session. Do give your valuable feedback as well. Thank you so much.